This is AllReasonNoLogic's road to OS25. Let's follow Pradith's journey from starting skill rating 16 as he makes his way to rating 25 and beyond.
G'day all. You're watching AllReasonNoLogic. It's episode 4 of Beyond All Reason, the road to OS25, where we dive into a bit of eco and glitters. We are following one man's journey from the starting OS of 16 and working his way up to hopefully OS25 and beyond. That man is Pradith, who has so far been, I think, part of 4 wins and 1 loss in this journey, currently with an OS of 18.47. Today's episode was meant to focus on eco again, but I think things make a turn. Joining me is Pradith to review how this match went. I'll try to hold back any emotion that makes me sound like a disappointed dad watching his kid miss an open goal at a soccer game, or football as some of you call it. Let's go.
What do you mean I'm in this game? I'm in this game, not this cast. I'm actually playing it. It's my journey. Anyway, this is actually a bit of an interesting game because it's basically the worst case scenario for what we were trying to, well, not what we were trying to achieve with the series, but with the intent we had for this particular match. So this is another one that I played with, that I was intending to play with Roosters, but despite us being in a party, we managed to match up on opposite teams. So we decided to go for it anyway and just let the best man win. I know that Roosters tends to do some pretty interesting stuff, not always content to play standard, so I've got that in the back of my mind during all of this. The other thing that was meant to happen was I was going to go for a frontline position, but unfortunately they all got taken, so I got thrown into the eco. I'm not saying that being eco is bad, but when you got a plan for the match, getting shuffled around is something that can happen, and it's one of the reasons that including this in the journey is a pretty good idea. Having a look through, I'm just going for a totally standard start, trying to get a constructor out to get those mexes going. Some wind up to try and deal with the abysmal 4.5. I probably should have built myself a second solar, but it is what it is. And then getting myself a grave robber to grab all the metal.
I usually do that first. Yeah, I was about to pick on you like that. Disappointed dad.
Yeah. I also looked at what everyone else was doing and saw that no one else was getting the grave robber. So I was like, I can greed out the constructor first.
This is true.
Which is interestingly, which are my medals?
Pretty much the way I look at it is, I'll just circle on the screen for everyone. The medal that's at the back there.
Yep.
Usually this here as well, because the frontline players often go vehicles, especially in the higher rated matches. And honestly, if this player here in the tech position or the front line, this is now kind of like a frontline position down here, take all their metal, take all the metal down the side there, and then this metal here, pretty much
just have a bit of a
everything out of the canyon
on the grave robber and see what I've done. I've grabbed my circles first, and then I've just done a nice big area mechs to take the rest.
Yeah, well, honestly, as the eco player, you need an eco and you need that metal to eco. So everyone else, apart from the air player, should be focusing on the front line. So yeah, orange obviously going straight down to that canyon, yellow, cream color, and then the pink player going down and blocking this line here, the yellow more so taking about that distance there, cream, and then brown coming down to this position here. That's the way I like to see glitter played if you're going for the standard builds and standard setups.
Looking on the front lines, we've got a bit of an attack coming in. Oh no, we don't. Sorry, those are our units. Never mind.
You've got a couple.
I'm used to being on the blue team.
You definitely wanted a front line going in with some rating units there. Quite a low OS. We got 3 1 chevs on each team, including the 3 highest rated players on the opposing team, on Roosters' team.
I didn't want Roosters to be able to do something like an early nuke, so my intent here is to send units into his base before he's got any sort of defenses. Having played a couple of games with him, I've noticed.
Where he is. Good scouting information by the air. Sorry, mate.
Yes. From playing previous games with him, I know that there's almost never any units out early from Roosters. Couple of bad decisions going in. I was going to sneak down and take on the light blue player, but I saw the comm was still in the base, so decided to move on from there. Encountering a nice juicy wind farm as well as a construction bot. Definitely want to take those out. Construction bots are great to grab early on. And potentially a mistake, but not one that overly cost me. I ran the grunts through that gap, which could have let the comm get a little bit closer. And then I get into Rooster's base, want to try and put him on the back foot early.
Rooster's going forward with the commander just at the wrong time as well, and absolutely nothing there to defend. Building some grunts now, but without the build power. Probably needs to end the construction turret construction, or even go for the reclaim here, but a little bit of a panic. You can see, yeah, the reclaim happening. So
Yeah,
taking out a bit of
mistake
wind.
by me. Should have stayed out of the range of those reclaim turrets. Could have definitely done more damage than I did, but as I'm also trying to get my eco up in the background, so not doing my absolute best with the micro. Still, a constructor down for the light blue player, and a little bit of damage to Roosters. I'd say that's definitely worth the cost of 2 grunts.
What is a grunt? 36 metal.
Yeah, cheap, cheap
70,
as anything.
72 metal, and you probably did well over a few hundred metal damage. It's nicely done there. Good little raid, and you can just see, I mean, identifying from experience on the lower level OS, there's usually some lanes that don't build out fast enough. So if you just push out a couple grunts, pawns, ticks, rovers, anything, you're going to at least get through in 1 or 2 spots as an overall team.
Just like what's happening here from the purple player that's managed to get a couple of ticks through. We'll see how much damage they do. They're being chased down by Rocketeers, which are not great units for chasing down ticks. The pink pawns definitely needed to jump in and help. My grunts heading forward to try and deal with this, just spreading them out, and it does look like they're going to potentially run into each other, or at least be forced into my LLT. Nope, getting the retreat and into the LA base. 1 mech's taken out. And 1 mech is not a bad cost for a handful of ticks, particularly because ticks don't really leave behind anything. Ooh, getting those converters is very nice.
Yep.
It's a great little tick run by for the purple team.
And pop, there they go.
Right now we've got my advanced bot lab going down. Lots of donations, lots of metal donations coming in from all the players. At this point, I decide to actually hand out the T2 constructors to everyone, because in my experience, it's good to get the eco player rolling, but if you can T2 the team, that can be very, very beneficial. And just a little tip for anyone that's going to do this as well, you can preset the build queue. So if you grab the unit and then you use an area mex command, or just manually do it like I'm just doing for butter slaps, then the builder will go through and do them all without the other person having to do anything. They can definitely they can redirect it as they please, but it means it won't just sit there and do nothing, which I've seen far too often.
Yeah, when your attention's on the front line for most of these frontline players, or the air player obviously doing not as much as those frontliners in terms of APM, but still not got their eyes on the base. You definitely want to, as the eco or tech player, hand out those T2 mexes with at least a couple mexes queued. And then a comm detonation down on the opposite end with the T2 lab coming up just at the 8-minute and 20 mark by the looks of things. For the opposing team, who's in a bit of an eco advantage lead compared to your team, and that's probably got something to do with the greed going on by your friend Roosters, I reckon.
Trying to be a second eco.
Yeah,
I think.
I mean, Roosters has come up here in the usual spot, but probably should push to about there. A little bit of feedback for you, mate, if you're watching. At least you got those LLT downs. You can see this Cyan player taking a little bit of time to move up to the front line. Obviously new to the game, no build turrets in that base yet, but still giving it a great hot crack. So welcome to Beyond All Reason.
Oh, that's a lot of Rocketeers for Roosters to be fighting. Though, fingers crossed that his micro is up to scratch to dodge all of those missiles. Great job from the Metal Man to get such a large force up and running. One of the things that I just saw that you can't actually see it right now, but I did have my energy bouncing off of the very top end of my bar, and I also saw that a bunch of the energy converters were opening and closing. If you click on my play, you can actually see the bars now smack bang in the middle. That just gives you more headroom to convert, and so less is lost through sharing. Just thought I'd point that one out because it's something which I adjust quite a lot through the game, and I think it makes quite a big difference to how much metal you actually convert.
About 4-ish wind per second is not helping right now, especially when we're building a few different things at the moment. One thing that can be done to avoid that, and I see a lot more of the pro players do it, I definitely don't do it enough, is just slap down that T1 energy storage. So when you are overflowing energy, it does take some time before that energy reaches zero, and potentially the wind will jump back up again before that happens.
I'm not super fussed about it right now. Oh no, actually I'm floating 1,000 metal, so I should be very fussed about it. If I'm not floating metal, I'm not super fussed about bottoming out on energy.
There we go, and the answer is going into those advanced solars, which I don't mind.
You can always reclaim them for all the money back, and they just keep you going in the short term.
Yeah, 70 energy a piece once they're up, so yeah, getting 3 down. Very nice to top up that energy. So when your wind's up as well, definitely enough to fund plenty of T2 units. You can really see the difference between your team now, which has jumped back into the eco lead, and that's because the metal that's being handed out, you can see all the T2 constructors you've handed out to absolutely everyone. Nicely done. Whereas down on this side, you can see no one is getting T2 handed out, only the players that have built their own T2 labs. So real difference that's made in these lower level lobbies. If you are playing a role, play that role.
And just comparing myself to the other to my opposition eco, I'm not actually behind them despite handing out all of the T2. I might be fractionally, but it's not like they have a fusion. And theirs is going to start around the same time as mine. And one of the mistakes I think I make in this game is not eating my lab in order to fund the fusion, but I also don't have the build power to do it, only on 2 build turrets. So that is one of the areas that they're ahead of me. They're going to have 11 build turrets, which is the approximate metal value for all of the T2 that I handed out without people paying.
One thing you didn't do that you do commonly see in Glitters as the eco player is the detonation of that commander, which their eco player has done, you haven't, so it's actually quite impressive that you're still neck and neck with them despite not getting that extra 1100 metal in the bank.
I got sent 1300 metal by people wanting to buy T2 cons, so I figured that
helps.
Detonating and I got it sent while I was building the lab, and so I figured detonating the con wasn't necessary because it didn't affect how quickly I could get the lab up.
Yeah. Now, I haven't watched this replay, but what I can see is you've obviously got front lines formed in each lane here, but same weaknesses on each side, and that is there's not really much to defend here. Oh, actually, I take that back. There's a bit. It's kind of like a bit of a choke, but what we're seeing is this front line here is quite weak. So especially with this gauntlet up on the front line, plenty of units with those Centurions added in now with those rocket bots. Oh, bombing run. Don't want to
bombing run coming in. This is the power of handing off that early, off the early T2 constructor to the air player. Let him get a nice bombing run up nice and early. Roosters does manage to not lose all of his wind straight away like the blue player because of spreading them out in those 2x2s, but the converters were also dead center to the base, so they did a lot of extra damage while detonating. And with so many bombers and limited air support, that's huge damage done to Roosters, so all of that eco greed has fallen a little short.
Yeah, those converters just being popped on my screen right now. Unfortunately, I think we're a little bit unsynced. That's typical for Bardo. Just at the 13 minute 30, FYI.
I'm used to the current version where we only split apart by about 3 seconds over 25 minutes. We are currently casting this one on the older engine on an older update, and looks like I got myself 10 seconds ahead.
That's all right. You can see the frustration out of Roosters there, asking the air player, how does this happen? I don't disagree with that. There were only fighters built after the bombing run had already started. Going for 2 air labs. Also,
look at the capabilities of the green air player. They've got a T2 lab and they're supporting it off of 14 solars. Where's your medal, bro? It's all in the solars.
New to the game though, so forgiven of
Yeah.
course. Obviously it's hard to hold all the emotions back in bar. And we've got more coming through now. Wow.
because of seeing what just happened to that far side, I've gone one fusion into a nuke.
I like it.
So that's gonna be fun. And the nice thing about glitters is you don't actually need to scout. You don't need to know where anyone is because you know where they're gonna put their stuff anyway. If you just nuke the eco player, you're gonna hit eco.
I am surprised. It is the kind of the cardinal rule is, or cardinal sin is not putting down a anti-nuke by the 15-minute mark in both Glitters and Supreme Isthmus. So yeah, to stop any sort of nuke rush. This is obviously not a nuke rush, but you've had air player going down here, and I don't know if they scouted the base that much. Let's just have a quick player view from your end.
Well, the thing was they got all the way into the back side, and I didn't see an anti-nuke line or anything like that. So my guess was that they didn't have anti-nuke, or if they did, I'd be able to find somewhere that I could hit and have it be useful. Worst comes to worst, they build extra anti-nukes to try and defend against it, and I just sell it off.
You're getting a real payoff now for those T2 handouts. We've still got T1 ecos in some positions.
Gotta remember, it is a team game. And look, I'm definitely falling behind the other eco player. They're getting their first APHIS up. But that has a lot to do with my decisions and mistakes made. For example, I did not build enough build turrets because I'm not experienced enough with being in the eco position. I did not eat my T2 lab in order to build that first fusion, which I should have. I didn't detonate my commander in order to get that early medal. I didn't need to, but keeping the commander actually pays off over time because it will give you the same amount of medal over 10 minutes as if you ate it. So by now it's well and truly fine to have the commander still.
Yeah.
But again, I just didn't balance my economy. I've got 2,000 medal in the bank. Shouldn't have that.
Probably could have dropped this second fusion right next to the first one. I know that this is a nice, neat spot to put a T3 lab in the future, but maybe that's a little bit of food for thought for future games, is where you put the construction turrets to allow for that future eco.
Part of the reason I put it up there was I didn't actually want all of them engaging, because the nuke takes energy and metal. And by my calculation, if I let all of them run in, I would end up short for building the nuke. So my priority was building the nuke, because even where it is right now, I've dropped all the way down to 900 metal. So yep, I could have had one more build turret attacking it and I would have hit near zero, but it wasn't the worst decision that I made.
How's this for a defense over in the canyon? We've got 4 agitators up on the hill. I don't think I've ever seen that.
Yeah, that would be a bastard to break. I really like it. I really like it. To break this, I'd be grabbing some arbiters, because the arbiters can actually stand just behind this rock over here where they can't be shot by the agitators unless they're on the high trajectory, and they could just lob missiles in. Still, for anything other than specifically that, absolutely great. So it does look like the anti-nuke is just starting now for the purple player, but that is fine by me because I definitely am going to get that nuke off well and truly before it has an anti-nuke. So I've timed this.
Cortex nuke as well, doing quite a bit more damage, I believe, than the Armada nuke. I think it does take a little bit longer to charge, though. So you ever doing a nuke rush, which I know you weren't doing from what you said earlier.
No, there was no intention of doing it. It was the damage done. It was the damage done by the air raid that triggered it.
This will be a real game changer. T2 lab now going down. Obviously, your eco not as big as the opposition, but
if I destroy theirs and start putting units in the fight, should be good to go. They've got 2 APHIS up now, which means that they should be pulling ahead of us, but because of 2 players down, they're actually not. They're 200 metal behind, and it does look like that nuke is targeted quite well. assuming that they would build their eco just on the side of their 3 starting mexes. So fingers crossed that it is just close enough to take out those APHIS. I think it will be. And there it goes.
Reminds me I need to get a nice little print screen for this.
Just quietly watching, and
Very satisfying to watch. A good old nuke.
That positioning was legitimately perfect. Look at the mexes. I cleared all the possible mexes. So if you ever want to nuke that exact spot, you now know the range.
Taking out 2 of the air players' mexes, couple of win from there. And now a nice 100% eco advantage for the red team. For the middle anyway. And I think we're onto units now. Oh, look at that. Surprise, surprise. Praedyth going into Fiends.
What? I couldn't possibly be doing that. It's not like they're really cheap, really fast, and really useful. Though they're not actually where they should be right now, but that's fine. I was probably really giddy about the nuke.
That's always satisfying. I mean, it's one of my favourite things to do is a nuke play, especially in Supreme Isthmus, getting a spy bot down the other end. Glitter's also just as satisfying, of course.
I've also retargeted that nuke so that it's ready to pop off as soon as need be. I'm also swapping back into eco right now. I've got the Fiends to come up and try and clear up, because without the eco player I feel like some units to tip the front line is a good idea. And now and I know that I'm in the eco advantage now, and now I'm moving on to the APHIS. However, that is going to slow down my nuke because I'm running out of resources.
This player down the bottom left that looks like they're going to get nuked next, you can see still building all of this. If you do hear that nuke go off, what you want to do is stop building everything
and get a nuke bot. Get an anti-nuke bot, or if you can't get an anti-nuke bot, get yourself an anti-nuke, because there's no... If you start building the anti-nuke as soon as the other one goes off, and you have a decent amount of build power on it, it will be up to defend against the nuke. But if you wait even just a little bit, you're not gonna. This nuke is 85% of the way built.
Yeah, so it's going to fall, and it looks like your Fiends are now pushing through. So eco turn frontline.
You gotta play games adaptively, and when you do a lot of damage, you do need to capitalize on it.
And you can see here these Fiends are on fight command, just to point that out. They're not on a move command, so they're not doing damage to themselves from exploding units or buildings right next to themselves.
Because I want as many of them to be alive as possible to kill roosters, but with his comm coming up this way, or I don't actually know, I think I changed directions because... Yeah, I changed directions because yellow was pushing in here, and I wanted to have higher damage numbers. So I decided to go on in, and I know that air is a potential threat, though not how much or not much.
And you know there's no eco player as well.
Yeah. So I'm marching these units into where I think they're going to do the most damage, and here comes that second nuke.
That hurts, and don't see a comeback from the blue team. Nicely played for yourself, doing the most damage out of everyone. I forget that the nuke never gets included in the damage dealt. Maybe something that needs to be fixed in the game.
You just got to remember, when you're being eco, it is important to eco, but as Roosters has shown off in a couple of the other games, you have to make adaptive decisions. I chose the nuke because I saw how far behind they were when that air raid went in. I then chose units to follow up on that nuke, knowing that even if I did that, I'd still be in an advantageous position. I figured that the game would end before my eco paid itself off, which was why I tried to get in there as hard as I possibly could. And yes, as Grigowski points out, that nuke had 338 kills. The Apocalypse had 338 kills. So definitely doing my fair share of that one, I would say.
All right, well, that one takes your OS from 18.47 up to 19.1, a small jump of 0.63. And on the back of this video, we're going to jump into another one very quickly that wasn't the best game.
Alright, welcome back ladies and gentlemen. This time it is Pradith doing the intro, joined by Twig for a quick recap of a second game on this one. We decided to throw this one in there just because it's a good example of how the best intentions can go very wrong. Great starting positions for myself and Roosters. Roosters taking the front line, myself taking the eco backline, this game taking place directly afterwards, and I'm trying to fix the mistakes that I made last time. That includes getting more build power, as you'll see during the match. But the important thing is that this one is essentially as far as you can push something when you're in a losing match. So Twig, let's get this one on the fast forward and just show everyone what can happen here.
So what we've got, we're putting this on 20 times. We've got the yellow, orange, and pink players all on the right hand side or on the main lanes of the front line, and Roosters, although a little bit more experienced, still a somewhat newer player on the front line, and you can just see constant leaks, especially through this lane here. Absolute brand new player. I don't think they had played a game. Just watching them.
Well, look at what's happened to the yellow player.
Yeah,
the yellow player has lost his lane completely.
That's at 10-minute mark. And you've got Roosters here covering a very big position. I'm just going to put it back down to 1x speed just to give a quick breakdown, because that's very hard to follow.
Roosters is covering half the map.
Yeah, and then MF Ballin, I did see they go into T2, even though you were handing out T2s, rather than coming through and helping the front line. So the first frontline units were a couple Fiends and a Sheldon, rather than getting the T1 up there. And yeah, you're having to come through and protect this lane as well as going to the canyon. So you've got every single lane on the front line, apart from one, being this one right here, falling straight away. Let's just jump back on the 20 times speed, because this is a real quick recap. Fiends breaking the pushes. You can see one of the players, two of the players has already left. Roosters taking over their economies and bases. Pink player now at least coming over to this lane, but of course air raid comes in now. We've got the first resign vote called. That one's failed. Constant pushes. Roosters does a little bit of damage down here in the canyon, so that's, I think, the only offense that the team saw the whole game. Not even getting the GO, unfortunately. That was close. And as a result, everything that ran over there's now an absolute bucket load. Army Valley is 130% ahead for the blue team, and you've just got to push straight through. There is absolutely no way to stop something like this. So 3 brand new players on one team. Very unfortunate, and just sometimes you get games like this, and as well as you play, you can see you've completely defended those back 3 positions with Roosters.
Battle ended.
And that one was over in a heartbeat with just absolutely no chance for the red team. So,
when you've lost when you've conceded 2/3 of the map to your opponents by 10 minutes and then 3/4 by 15, you can just resign on that one. You're not coming back from it.
And the eco players had to go into offense, meaning that the eco player on the other team, you can see here, like, they were going for a second AFIS before you were even going for your second fusion. And then obviously the tech player as well.
Spam up.
Did a little bit.
The spam's in.
Yeah, air player well advanced as well over here. Obviously the replay's gone past the expiry, so it's showing a bit bigger. But let's look at the graphs.
Yeah, the important ones to look at is the metal produced graph. There were 2 players on the red team that produced even close to the top 5 on the blue team. You can't do anything with that.
One of them was a frontline player.
And this is an important part of the journey. There are some games that are going to be unwinnable, and that's actually okay. It just means maybe leave the lobby and try a different one, or hope that the players you played with are on the other team next time round.
It's called the Glitters grind, grinding through those games, trying to get your OS up. And unfortunately, because you were the highest ranked player in this lobby,
a lot of OS.
What was that? That took you from 19.1 down to 17.91, losing 1.18 OS. To finish off that day's battles.
Just quickly jump into the damage dealt. Despite being at a disadvantage, there's only so much you can do.
Wow, yeah, two players from AllReasonNoLogic doing more damage than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players on the other team, and then obviously everyone else on their own team as well. So well played. Like, you just get games like that, and that's beyond all reason. So we hope you guys liked that first game. That was a disgusting second game.
And
Very
I
unfortunate.
hope you laugh at us for the second game. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and a comment. Jump on into our Discord and play games with us. Always love to have new members. We just had a 40-player King of the Hill. The Beyond All Reason community team has jumped on to assist us with that one, which we really appreciate. Definitely worth a watch, and if we can get their support again in the future, would definitely be worth playing again. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Bye.